Welcome to the program on this important day. Robert, I just want to get your thoughts on the safety, because there are so many concerns about this. The IAEA chief, Mariano Grossi, says the process of disposing of contaminated water in Fukushima is being carried out in a safe and transparent way. But what are your thoughts on this?
Well, releasing radiation and radioactive particles into the ecosystem is never safe. There's always risk involved. It's always better not to be releasing this material into the ecosystem. There's safer things that could be done. So, in a sense, because the decision to release this material was really undertaken years ago, for example, it's being released through a large pipeline that's been built. Once you commit the funds to build that pipeline, you've made the decision. So this was a de facto decision, and then there's a performance of approval at this point. But releasing radioactive material into the environment is never something that is a neutral thing. There's always harm and danger involved in it.
So did the Fukushima plant have other options? You say this decision was taken a long time ago. Are there present options
Yes.
that would have been different, that would have avoided what we're seeing today?
Absolutely, you bet.
Like
For
what?
example, well, one of the main ones that's discussed is that the Japanese government could hold this water for 100 years. They could build lots of large tanks that were earthquake resistant, that were seismically sound, and hold this water for 100 years. During that period of time, the material that's in the water would decay so that when it was released, it would be significantly less radioactive. This is something that could be done. It's safe to do, and it would reduce the impact on the ecosystem, but it would require several things that the Japanese government is trying to avoid, one of which is high cost, another one of which is to create a large amount of tanks holding this water in northern Japan and remind everybody of the presence of this material.
Absolutely.
It's a lot easier to just flush it and say that it's safe.
And of course, the water belongs to everybody. It affects everybody. And the fact here, we're talking about 500 Olympic-sized swimming pools that are going to be poured into the Pacific Ocean. How do you monitor that across 30 decades? And also, given what you're saying, that there are present options right now, could Japan say, okay, let's team up with South Korea, China, build those containers that are earthquake-proof and stop this?
Yes, that's clearly something that could be done, and a decision was taken not to do that. It's not just the amount of water that's there now. I mean, part of the reason they want to clear out these tanks is because they need to refill these tanks. This is water that's being used to cool the melted reactor cores sitting under the three buildings where the full meltdowns happen. So those have to be actively cooled to prevent additional releases from the cores themselves. And so these tanks are being emptied because more water has to be poured on these cores for several more decades and fill those tanks back up. All of that water will follow this water. It's just not in the tanks yet, so it's not in the accounting yet. But this is an ongoing process. So there will be releases probably longer than 30 years. The melted reactor core under Chernobyl is still sitting there. They haven't removed it yet. So the way that we'll see these impact is, I mean, we have all kinds of studies that track the movement of radioactive particles in the ecosystem once they're released. You know, they're chemicals in the ecosystem, so they migrate through the ecosystem. They move with ocean currents. They're taken up by plants. They're taken up by animals, and they cycle. They become, you know, part of our ecosystem. And some of, you know, the amount of time that they're dangerous for differs depending on the particle. So over time, they will slowly decay, but they will be a part of our ecosystem during that
Robert,
time.
just very quickly, because I have to wrap. China has banned seafood from Japan because of this. Is that a good idea?
Well, we're all in the same ecosystem. I think that's
Okay.
more of a political act than it is an ecological act.
All right. Robert Jacobs, fantastic to have you on the show on this important subject. Speaking to us live there from Hiroshima in Japan. Appreciate it so much.
Thank you.